Did it work? Are we back?
Hello, hi
Hey!
there. Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Internet.
Hello there, everyone. So this is StonerBang here with another Q&A, and this time we have some new people here. These are the guys responsible for the Storybots spinoff show, Super Silly Stories with Bo, currently streaming on the Netflix Juniors YouTube channel. It has been nominated for 2 Kids Screen Awards last year, and just recently had been nominated for the Emmys this year for outstanding editing in a preschool program. And by the way, for those of you who are not aware yet, the Storybots IP itself has been nominated this year for a record 10 awards, which is the most it's received at all in an Emmy show this year. So kudos to all you guys for making such an amazing property. You deserve it in every single way possible. I'm so in love with you guys. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Today, as you can probably tell, we're going to be answering some questions from fellow fans of the show, and just having a good time as we always do. So without further ado, let's get the show on the road. So we'll start with introductions. First off, we have the main guy himself responsible for this show, Mr. Henry Dalton. Say hi, Henry.
Hey, Frank, how you doing?
Hey, he's the main guy responsible for all the stuff that happened in this show, and the guy who made it possible. So just why don't you go introduce yourself, Henry?
Hello, I'm Henry. I did too many jobs on this show and got no sleep, and was supported by the most amazing tiny crack gorilla unit of TV makers and actors and everything, like the Storybots A-team. It was great.
Of course, we always love your work, Henry. You're such an amazing guy over there. And returning for the second time on this channel, actually, we have the one and only Erin Fitzgerald, voice actor of Bo. Say hi, Erin.
Everybody, I'm so happy you're all here. These are my bestest friends, and I want you to be really nice to them. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure everyone is aware who Erin is, the voice actor of Bo, and just an awesome voice actor in general. Like, I'm just so impressed with all your voices. Like, every time you just speak, I'm at a loss for words every time. And also today we have a writer and composer of the Storybots, Scott Emmons. Say hi, Scott.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. So I guess what I can add is that I worked with Evan and Greg for 8 years at Jib Jab, and then as they developed Storybots. And so a couple of years later, they contacted me to be a part of this show, and hooked me up with Henry, and it was just one of the best collaborations I've ever had.
And I also just shout out to Scott, because out of those 10 nominations you just announced, 2 of those were for Scott for his songs that he's written. 2 nominations in 1 category, this man. So yeah, this guy is a genius with music.
I'll pay you later, Henry.
I've also wanted to add as well, like, Scott, I've always, like, ever since I've watched the show as a kid, like when I saw your name in the credits, I always thought like you were like a writer. I never actually thought you made music. Like, that was like something new I've never actually thought. And like that, and like just seeing your music, it's actually it's absolutely incredible. Like,
well, and I have to, full disclosure here, I am not a musician. I'm not a professional musician. I kind of came to songwriting in a roundabout way because I had worked at Hallmark and had kind of specialized in light verse there and light rhyming stuff. And so when I started writing for Storybots, that just kind of carried over into songwriting. So I had a little bit of a musical background and could at least come up with a melody, but professional musicians had to take it from there.
Well, I feel like I have to throw in, you also write some of the Storybots books, or all of them? I can't
have written
most of them.
Storybots books, yeah.
oh,
Thank you.
No, right.
Thank you.
Right there.
like
Writing is a little bit like songwriting, because you're having to do the verse, you're having to do the rhyming. It's kind of, there's a crossover Venn diagram there.
There is, yeah.
I think I have all the books currently in this form, and they actually just they're releasing another book that's coming out, I think, in May. It's the one about toilets.
Yeah.
They are It's another interesting book. And I'm in the works of making a merchandise video as we speak of like all the books, toys, and everything for Storybots. And when that book came out, I'm like, oh wait, I have to wait for that book to come out and then make the video. so we'll just have to wait on that to get my physical book out to me. Anyway, and oh yeah, like how could I forget the final person here, Jared Chapman, character background designer. Say hi, Jared.
Hey, how are y'all? I should add too, going back to Scott, like everyone in this room was privy to his demos, which I still think about to this day. They were fantastic. They could have been an album unto themselves, which I really enjoyed.
We're so embarrassing.
They were great. But yeah, I'm Jared. I drew pictures.
Okay, wait. No. That is underselling Jared here. Okay, he's a humble man, but Jared did all of the storybook stuff that's in all of the episodes. Jared designed and drew and made every single background, every single character in later episodes with the help of Amy, who came on, because my goodness, it was so much insane amount of work that this guy did in that amount of time. Like his drawing hand went down to a stub. He's got a very, very realistic prosthetic on, but don't be fooled. That thing is solid titanium.
And I'll just add this, Jared. Like I know you're like a author and illustrator in your books. I've seen like some of your books actually in works, and when I crossed back and checking the books and the show, I was like, wait a minute, these look similar. Wait a minute, like this is the same guy. And I was like so like surprised and seeing like, oh wait, these books being translated into a show. It's honestly pretty seamless, like from the illustration to animation set. I'm not sure the right terminology. Someone has to correct me on that. But yeah, it's like so interesting to see like these illustrations from child author to be translated into like a children's show is honestly just incredible. I do have to say.
Well, thanks.
It's a really
it was fun. It was a fun year. And it was really, it's always a thrill to like, because I'm just drawing still images, but to see them, they were then taken and produced and animated, and it was fantastic. It's always a thrill to see that stuff.
I remember when Evan was saying, oh, we got this guy Jared who I think would be a good fit for the art and stuff. And I was looking at your kids' books, Jared, and it was like T-Rex time machine, vegetables in underpants, and it was just like, oh yeah, no, we're gonna get on. Yeah, this will work.
You're on the same wavelength.
Of course. All right. All right. Let's not waste any more time and get onto these questions because we have a lot of them. We have like hundreds of questions coming in, and we still have questions coming in. My God, oh my God, we have like lots. So I guess we'll start off with just a very popular question that many people have is just, well, how exactly did the show get its start? Where did the inspiration come from in the show?
Shall I take that one? So I mean, from my point of view, like the show had a very weird and random, crazy happenstance start. So back in the pandemic, so actually just before the pandemic, I was due to be moving out to the States for work. I've been trying to do that for quite a few years. And I'd given notice on my apartment. I had my bags packed, and then the pandemic hit and lockdown happened. And I had to move into a random little basement apartment in London, emergency, like all of my plans shattered, thinking, oh my goodness, I'm never going to go out and be making shows and stuff. And whilst I was just there kind of, in this basement, feeling sorry for myself, writing freeform angry beat poetry, I get this like email out of the blue from this guy called Evan Spiridelis, which sounds like a fake name if you get an email like that. So, I was skeptical, and he kind of said, hey, I'm making a show out in LA, which is like where I was going to be going to go and do stuff. And I make this show called Storybots. And I hadn't actually heard of it. It didn't transfer to the UK as much. And I don't have kids. So I was like, okay, cool. And he was like, I've seen your stuff online, and do you want to have like a quick Zoom call? And I was like, sure, yeah, let's do it. And so we had this Zoom call, which then became like an hour and a half Zoom call where we spent 95% of the time just talking about Jim Henson and the Muppets, because we were just like both massive, we're both massive Muppets. And that went really well. And he was like, oh, we're making this show called, well, at the time, it wasn't called Answer Time. It was called On the Job, which I'm glad they changed the name of just for the British slang connotations alone. But like the show, they were trying to get me to through on that. And he said, oh, well, I'll send you like a one of the sketches. And you want to kind of like, at the time he was like, can you edit it and put it together and see what you think? So I got this sketch through, and in my absurd arrogance, I basically completely rewrote the script that they'd sent me, got a microphone, recorded voices, and sent it back, sort of thinking they're either going to absolutely hate this thing and I will never hear from them again, or they might like it. And thankfully they liked it, and they kind of said, hey, if you can do that, we've got this idea for this kind of spin-off series, and it's kind of a rough idea and we don't quite know what to do with it yet, and can we send over what we've got and, you know, see what you kind of do with it. And basically it was Jeff Gill, who was you had on before, who's one of the insanely talented. He's one of the Storybots directors, but he also does an awful lot more than that. And he'd come up with this concept, and he'd made this kind of very, very, very rough sort of doodle animatic, which was basically a really, really, really rough version of what ended up being the second episode, which was the one with the dog genie granting wishes. And it kind of just showed Bo talking to these doodle kids, and she'd read a story and it rhymed, and they'd shout stuff out, and it would change. And it was like, could be really, really funny. So I basically kind of hunkered down and over like the next few weeks wrote like a whole sort of show Bible, used my piano and made them a theme song, and like made a little pilot episode and sort of sent it all back saying, how about this? And they kind of said, that, yeah, we like that. Do you want to make 26 episodes of it? And that doesn't usually happen. And so I was like, yes, yeah, you know, I actually kind of would. So we ended up kind of making this show, and it was in lockdown, so it was all completely remote. I was in London for 80% of it. Some of the crew was in Texas, you know, Jared and Scott, and some of the crew was in LA. Later on down the line, when we were getting it animated at Post House, that was in Malaysia. So there were a lot of time zones going on. It was kind of this crazy sort of production, but that's kind of roughly how it sort of came about. And I kind of, when I was trying to take it from the little kind of rough sketch thing to like be a full show, I've been doing a lot of work with a friend of mine called Swampy Marsh. He was the co-creator of Phineas and Ferb. And I kind of did what in an industry term that we call ripping it off, where I kind of took the thing that they do on Phineas, where they kind of have a set structure and go like, okay, each episode will hit this and we'll hit that and we'll hit that, and kind of try to apply it to this show. So it was like, okay, each episode, Bo will talk to kids, she'll be wearing a different type of hat, we'll see a different book at the end, and then each episode will try and twist that and riff on it and bend it and see what we can do with it to change it, you know, in as crazy ways as we can think of. But yeah, that's from my end how the show came about. I'm sure from all you guys' ends, it's a different story. But
I can add a little bit of backstory to that too, because when Jeff and Evan first developed that animatic, they sent it to me and said, would you like to try writing some scripts for this? And so I had about 5 or 6 drafts of different scripts written before we were introduced. And one of the great things about it, I think, was that, you know, I had taken, oh yeah, I like this this format where you lead them to expect a rhyme, and then it's just, you know, the kids come in and just wreck it. And so I'd been writing scripts with that kind of template. But I think what really helped with the collaboration was that I tend to be a little more restrained in my humor, and then Henry would come in and just bring in these things that were out of left field. And so it just added that extra little juice. It was like my stuff on steroids. And then as it developed from there, we discovered, the kids would even take it in more bizarre directions. So more and more, the kids had influence on what the scripts were.
Absolutely. And that very first episode was one of those very first scripts that you did, Scott. It was the what ended up being the tomato dinosaur pizza episode. Yeah.
That is awesome. And I also want to add another thing too, about the show, is the kids on the little television computer screens or whatever you call those things. The kids, and they say all like these different types of responses and all that stuff. I'm just wondering, like, is that like, were all those like scenes of the kids, like they got like for every single kid, like were they like ever like, you know, scripted anyway, or because I honestly felt like they were just saying whatever as possible.
Yeah, I mean, the way that we would tend to do it would be that we'd work out where roughly in the episode we would want the kids to interject, and we'd give some kind of suggestions and ideas of like things that could be funny, so that the way that I can kind of go under the bonnet and kind of tell you sort of like how we sort of would make the thing. That will involve kind of.
Wait a second, a bonnet is a trunk for those of you.
Sorry.
Under the bonnet, because everyone's
English.
visualizing a bonnet now. You know, an American, a trunk. So let's go into the trunk.
I can go into the trunk. But this is going to be kind of me taking a hammer of anti-televisual magic to this a little bit and shattering a few things. But I think the actual way that we would put the episodes together is, if anything, kind of more interesting than the way it seems to be made. So like on the surface, I think it hopefully seems like quite a simple show. In like the kids talk to Bo, they change the story, the happens. And the more you kind of actually deconstruct and think about it, it's like, well, that can't actually happen because the show is animated, and I don't mean sort of like I'm not being Ian McKellen in Extras. It's like it's animated, but animation takes a very long time. Like, so you can't have those sorts of interactions where the kid is actually affecting the story and talking to Bo. So the way that the thing would work is that Scott and I would create a sort of script together. And then we'd done like a casting call for like a shout out for like kids to just send in videos if they wanted to be on Storybots. And so I went through, I think, over 1,000 different videos of amazing kids who'd all sent in like, stuff wanted to be on the show. Out of that, I kind of, picked ones that I thought would be good for the show. And then Jeff, who is the most, what's the word? He's a Swiss Army knife of animation. Like, he can literally do anything. And so he would have this setup where he would do the interviews with the kids, and he would use a Storybot puppet and it would be like a member of the answer team was calling the kid, and the puppet's name was Gerald, and Gerald actually, as a little in-joke, pops up in Storytime it pops up in Super Silly Stories a couple of times, just as a little joke for any of the kids that were actually interviewed by him. But Jeff would basically do these like half an hour long free-form chats with the kids, just these interviews, where they would just riff and talk and play, and he would have an idea of the sort of things, what the episode was about, what would be fun to get them to sort of shout out at these sort of points. But like Scott said, generally, once we got that footage back, the stuff the kids came up with and the stuff they were saying was so much more crazy and more inventive and more anarchic than anything that we could have come up with. So what we would tend to do is, rather than it being like, here's the script, then we animate it, then we edit it, or whatever, everything was kind of one thing. The edit would change the script, that would change the voice, everything kind of was fluid and kind of came together. So the scripts and what the episode was would often change quite a lot once we saw what we got to work with from the kids. But the other interesting thing is that, when you see the episodes, the kids appear to be interacting with Bo, they appear to be interacting with each other, reacting to stuff. But actually, each of those chats with the kids is kind of a completely separate half-hour chat that Jeff had with them. And it's all been edited in a quite intricate way to make it look like it's all one story and all of a piece.
And that's why Henry gets an Emmy nomination.
Hopefully you win. You
Yes.
deserve it. If they knew what went into it, you deserve it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If we're up against Star Wars, we're not going to win.
Always have to have faith. You know, you never know.
Use the Force.
The Force is with you, Henry. The Force is with you.
Now this is gonna turn into like some Star Wars. All right. All right. Let's go back to the questions, and this time, okay, we'll go with Erin with this next one. This is asked by Ash Corpse, and they want to know, out of all the 26 episodes of the show, which episode would you say is your personal favorite that you have voice acted in of all the episodes?
I have two. One, I think Henry shares with me, but the other one is I have to share this story because this was such a thrilling story, and I didn't know. I don't even know how this all came about, but it turned out that my niece had been one of those thousands of kids who got interviewed by the puppet Gerald Jeff Gill. I did not know this happened. Her mother did not tell me at all that this had happened. I didn't know that she had booked the job and that there was an amazing interview that ensued. Well, it turns out that as Gerald was interviewing her, she's a very creative, very smart young lady, very science oriented. And the episode that Gerald Jeff was talking to her about was the time machine episode. And he asked her to describe what time travel was. And she just kind of shut down the conversation and said, you know what? Let me draw it. And she drew in real time the time machine. She drew what a time machine was. Now, if that wasn't brilliant enough and my auntie pride wasn't already brimming, Henry was genius enough to take her illustration and put it in the episode and animate it. That time travel machine was drawn by my niece, and I didn't even know she had done that. I didn't know I didn't find out any of this until after the fact. I don't even know. Did I know when I was recording the episode? I don't think I even knew then.
Because I don't think that I knew at that time.
No. So none of us knew that this had happened, that my niece was in an episode, and technically I was talking to her in an episode because her mother didn't want to tell me anything because she didn't get the confirmation until after we had done everything that Marley's interview got used. So that time travel episode is up there, very likely my number one favorite, just because that was such an amazing story of love. And I feel like the love that Bo brings to everything she does, that Bo manifested that. I think that was a gift from Bo to me and my niece Marley and her Pat, because she was a huge fan of Storybots, and we would watch together and talk about it, and she'd make me do Bo for all of her friends, and it was just one of those things. And then to take it to the next level and have that experience. But come on, Rainbow Unicorn, Rainbow Unicorn.
Of course.
Who are you kidding? What is going to be my happiest? I think I was in full autistic glimmer mode recording that episode. I was high as a kite on happiness. I think
the energy that Erin gave out in that episode could power several suns. It was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in a booth. Like, my God, you were.
I was so happy. Yeah. I don't think that episode encapsulates my heart being the widest open, the most amount of love flowing through. Like, that is me at full capacity. And the fact that I got to do that, because very rarely does anybody want to use me at full capacity, because it could run several suns. So it was glorious. It was so satisfying as an artist to put my whole heart and soul into something in such a way that all my joy, all my happiness, all my love, all my passion could be poured into it unlimited. That's a glorious tied for first with time travel. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of that. I mean, when it comes to like, you know, favorite episodes, that when I watch it, like on my spare time, I mean, I'd be lying. I say all the episodes are like my favorite when I say, but I think if there's one episode that I really like tie with the most, and I really relate to the most, is probably that one. I think it was called Lollipop Mountain. It was like the one where Bo was making a video game. Yeah, I think that one was
the face at this end too.
Great one. The writing on that was chef's kiss. Come on, like that. I feel like that deserved an award. That was brilliant. That was brilliant. So many layers of inception.
Episode. And there's references in that episode that I don't think I've even told anyone about, that I don't think anyone's picked up on. Like every time Bo does her little tapping when she's programming, that's dialogue from a hacking scene of a different movie each time. So there's the hacking scene from Jurassic Park in there. There's one from, I think, Office Space. There's so many little jokes thrown into this show that no one's ever picked up on, I think.
Like, I think like when I watched the episode, like, you know, hundreds of times at this point, like I every time I see like, you know, a video game that get referenced, like, because I'm like something about me that I don't think people really know about is like I game a lot. I really love, like, you know, I'm mainly a Nintendo guy myself, and I play like, you know, just, you know, the normal stuff like, you know, Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Pokemon. That's those games. And, you know, since a lot of those were like, you know, Nintendo references, like, you know, Mario Kart, there was a Zelda reference.
Yeah,
there's probably a few more that's probably like, you know, more obscure. But like for the most part, like, you know, like when I saw like all those,
I'm attacked my Switch. My wife is very, very sick of it. My favorite one in there is actually the Monkey Island reference, because that was quite an old school one, where right at the end, behind Bo is a three-headed monkey. That's a kind of bit of a deep cut.
Like just that episode itself is just like it's just something else. Like I really love, like, you know, just all the intricacies and the references to the video games that, you know, that I grew up with. Like it was like, you know, just a whole different travel of memories with that episode as well.
That's a really good example of like the kids just taking an episode and running with it as well, because the little girl in that episode, Winnie, my goodness, like she does the whole thing with the dragons and like not letting the dragons in and them all bursting in, and like that when we caught the footage back of the interview with her and she was going into that, it was like, right, okay, scrap the entire like back half of the episode, because it's just going to become the Winnie show now. This is going to be a whole sequence. Don't care, it's too funny. So yeah, Jared, Scott, what are your favorites?
No, go ahead, Scott.
I would say that you know, after we've been doing them for a while, we were kind of looking for new angles, and we started going in a more meta direction, kind of using elements from the flagship show, you know, Answer Time and so forth. And so one of my personal favorites was, which one was it? It's the one that starts with Hap having to take Bo's place.
Yeah, picking
and that, you know, most of the writing I did for the flagship shows was songwriting. I also did a lot of the fun facts, but that was my first chance to actually get to write dialogue for Hap. So that's one of my favorites, definitely. And then I also just loved the concept of the one where Bo has to make up the story as she goes along, because the troll is eating the script, and so they dash around through Storybot's world. Yeah, so those are two of my favorites.
And speaking of that final episode of the one that one troll ate that script in the book, Henry, I believe you told me like a few times like that episode itself has like some very significant value to a lot of people, including yourself, with like, you know, just this as the show in general, and it like has like a more deeper meaning to it, like than like, you know, normal episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we really want to. One of the things I was conscious about with this show is that it could very easily kind of be just a shallow sort of like, you know, here's the kids shouting out, and that just happens every episode and it repeats. And I thought it would be really nice if the show actually did kind of have an arc. and a kind of through story. And so you kind of have throughout the series, the characters in the storybook slowly become kind of more self-aware. They start kind of becoming, you know, not just little, they become kind of things in their own right, and that kind of starts to reach ahead around the Tiffany's Garden episode, where, you know, Tiffany then actually enters the storybook, enters Bo's world, you know, and you can see, yeah, Bo's a little surprised that this could happen, and so that kind of cascades, and once you then start to get to like the construction episode where the whole thing start invading the storybook, the story room, and it kind of just builds up until this kind of finale where not only are they affecting the story room, they're literally kind of causing havoc across the whole of the Storybots HQ. And for the first time, we're actually like running out and seeing that this is really connected to the whole Storybots world. And I remember when we were pitching that idea to Evan and Greg, like they were understandably a little kind of like, because they like to have continuity, you know, in the show, and they were like, well, hang on, if this is really affecting the other stuff, is that going to be okay? And fair play to them. And this applies to every single point with this show, and every single decision that was made, every single thing. They had so much trust in us, and they had so much support, and every single time like we wanted to do something, like they had our backs, like absolutely every step of the way. And with this, it was, I think they were cautious, not just because of the ambition of the story, but because of the ambition of the production, because the whole show up until that point had been like, we have one location, which is the story room. And particularly when you're going for that sort of level of niceness with the backgrounds and things, for a show which was a very small and low budget show like ours, to then go, oh, actually just for this last episode we're going to have about 8 different locations, we're going to have about 20 different background storybots from all across the show. Is that cool? Is that okay? And they were amazing. They basically lent us like some of the main Answer Time crew, some of the artists. They let us use some of their backgrounds, and we would say, hey, could we take like that background but add a door there and put the canteen there and stuff like that. And it was such an ambitious kind of, for our little show, that was an ambitious undertaking, that episode. But it was also really nice because it kind of gave the arc a wrap up, and it was nice to have the ending where for once, like, the kids do something nice for Bo at the end, and they kind of help save the day, and it kind of made it, they showed the love back to her, which was a really nice way to kind of wrap it up.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was like, you know, it's like, it's a very different show. Like, you know, when I see like all these other Storybot series and specials out there, like when they see like Super Silly Stories with Bo, like, you know, it's very different in structure, and just like how it's like, you know, being portrayed and like how they tell their stories. It's a very different kind of show, not only because of like, it was like, you know, only had one Storybot instead of like the main 5, but it's just
we always refer to it as the underground punk album of Storybots, because like it really felt like it. It's like we were just this little tiny unit that was just doing this weird experimental, like we had no idea if it would work. It was really an experimental kind of show, working out the whole production pipeline, everything kind of as we went along. And the fact that it was a bit more anarchic, it skewed a bit older with the sense of humor than Storybots usually does, which was also kind of a new thing for them. And that it all kind of really centered around Bo and Erin's like amazing talents. It felt like, and also compared to the other shows, it's probably the less seen, I would say, out of them. So it was definitely kind of like, here's the kind of weird underground experimental punk album of Storybots. Yeah.
It was also, I think, kind of a bold move on Evan and Greg's part, because it's the one Storybots thing that doesn't have an educational mission. It's pure entertainment.
I would say in some ways it does, because I think encouraging imagination is every bit as important.
In that broad sense, yes.
I also feel like, and I can only talk from my experience as Bo during the series. What Bo learned the most, because she had a whole spiritual exploration for herself, was flexibility. She was so stuck on, no, it has to be this way. But she's a kind-hearted person, and okay, well, I'll let you. I mean, it just reminds me of being a little kid and over-directing my friends as to, no, we're playing this. No, you don't understand. No, we're playing this way. No, you're doing it wrong. You know, and it was giving that energy. and then Bo to get to a place of surrender with it, of like, you know what, it actually is fun to become more fluid and more flexible and spontaneous, instead of resisting it all the time. I feel like for me, the education, it's almost like a social education as opposed to a knowledge education. It's more of an experiential, how do we interact with each other, how do we do the social stuff. And if any of the story bots could do a social lesson, I feel like it's Bo, because she operates from that love place. Yeah, that's my perspective on it.
Also, I'd say, you know, Scott obviously has a very long history with storybots and with writing for them, and knows all the characters and the episodes. Like I remember when we were doing like the episodes and you throw in the like the big brown boogieing bear sort of reference in the night episode, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but I will trust you that that's a. But you and particularly Erin, like I remember like in the booth, you know, because we were taking Bo to some places that like and tones that hadn't really been explored with her, you know, and I think you were very brave in being up for going that way, but also you were very much a guardian of her character. And if there were points where it was like, no, I don't think she would say it like that, or she would feel this way about it, like it was really good to have that guidance on it, because like I said,
I wish I could take credit for that, but she lives inside me, and sometimes she'll be like, I wouldn't do that. Oh, that's not what I'm sorry, but I don't know who you think I am, kind of a thing. And then I become the agent for Bo, going, okay, so I'm feeling a little resistance from Bo around this. Can we adjust it so that she can say it, kind of a thing? Because when she puts her foot down, she just like in the show, she gets very like, I don't think that's gonna work. Maybe we could do something that's better for everybody. You know what I mean? But it was amazing to push the character development and the growth in that way, because she wouldn't have been able to do that in the regular series in this, or maybe she could, but if the series got to continue forward. But I think in this amazing kind of like honeypot of cocoonism with the show, I don't know, I'm putting words together, but what Scott was able to do was just so powerful. And as an actor, the growth and the stretching and the not doing the same thing, like Bo did not respond the same every episode. She felt different, her interactions were different. It brought up issues like Erin issues that Erin had to confront, you know, which is great growth as an artist. Like I feel like I'm a much better actor on the other side of this series than I was when I started getting to work with this amazing team of people, and all of the mastership that went into this show. Not only was everybody coming in at a level of mastery, but also that everybody kind of like put the children's interviews above all, and that everybody allowed themselves, everybody's egos took a step back to whatever the children put forth. And as grown-ups, who I see grown-ups who don't do that with kids ever, to see an entire team of grown-ups doing that creatively because it served the show at the highest level, it was the utmost amount of love I have ever experienced. It was spectacular.
And adding on to that, like in that final episode where like all the kids, like, you know, giving Bo all these like presents, like a beach vacation, unicorns and all that. Like I think without that last episode in the show, I think it really like loses like, you know, a bunch of that development in the kids themselves, as well as like, you know, for Bo, because, you know, without that episode, it makes it feel like the kids really don't give a damn about Bo. They're just saying all these stuff because they don't care for her. But like, no, that final episode shows that they really do like have like a great affectionate for Bo and like all the stories, because like it was Bo that told all the stories, and like, you know, it seemed only fair to like, you know, for the kids to repay her and like give her everything that she could ever wish for. And it just makes for like a very heartwarming, emotional ending. It's really,
until the tidal wave, but you know, we couldn't end on too much of a sappy note.
Yeah.
I just realized what Jared's favorite episode was.
Oh, my favorite episode is hands down. It's the one towards the end with the wedding one, where Bigfoot and
Robot Hero.
Yeah, Robot Hero. That is my favorite episode.
With the villain.
Is that the one? Is that the one with the yeah? I also like.
Bad guy.
There's the is it the same episode? it may be a different episode with the little kid that's like, you want to know why? Because I've got a big brain.
Oh
Like,
no, that was so.
That's a separate episode, right?
Yeah. So shout out to Benjamin, who was villain kid, and shout out to Spec, who was
Yeah.
the most amazing. Yeah, the big
Yeah,
brain
they were great.
kid, just amazing, absolutely amazing kid. Like so talkative, just brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, that
Do you
was,
I
think
feel
my
like I
head's
have to
good?
do a shout out for the episode, the musical episode, because first of all, that was a surprise, and how brilliant it was to get. I mean, it was just, that was amazing. That was an amazing experience. I had such a good time. Just want to shout out to everybody involved. Thank you.
you brought the pipes on that one.
My God.
Scott, I think Gabe. I mean, Scott, you wrote the music and lyrics.
Most of the lyrics, although you contributed a lot to the
The horse, the Hamilton horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's Gabe Sokolov got me there. He helped. Yeah.
because
Thank
what
you,
I had
Gabe
written
Sokolov.
was, I guess, so close to. I mean, the parody was so obvious
I-
that they
I-
were afraid of lawsuit.
Well, without sort of saying stuff I shouldn't, I think Netflix at the time was working with Lynn and was anxious about doing any kind of too close a parody. But
Yeah.
I think Gabe, who is the composer for the show, was going to be watching. So hey, Gabe, if you're there. In fact, shout out to Gabe. Shout out to Sinisa, who is kept the whole boat afloat and stopped us going mad. And shout out to Mason if he's in the audience, Patrick, who is going to be here, who is the assistant editor, who was ill and has the most amazing daughter Violet, who was also in one of the episodes, in the fairy tale episode, and just anyone who's on the crew who's in the audience, and
Amy.
And speaking of Netflix, there's actually a question a lot of people have been asking me and like a bunch of other people as well. Of all like the series and specials like that Storybots has made, the Super Silly Stories with Bo show is the only show that is not on like the Netflix, like, the regular Netflix streaming service. And I'm just wondering, like, what's the reason of it being like, just a YouTube exclusive rather than like just having it being on like Netflix with all the others?
Yeah. I mean, again, this is going to be one where I should probably, I might have to be careful what I say and what I don't, but I think I will answer it in absolutely as openly and as honestly as I can. Basically, so the idea for the show was that it would go on the Netflix platform in the way that you see the sort of multiple story episodes where you have the title sequence, you have the stories, you have the transitions between them, you have the credits at the end, and then it would also go out on YouTube, sort of split up into the individual stories. When we got to the end of finishing the series, and we got to the final stage, which is kind of doing the grading and mixing and putting it all out into tape, and we're all very, very happy with it. And that happened to be the week where, and I think I could say this because it was pretty publicized, the streaming bubble sort of started to burst. A lot of the streaming channels lost a lot of stock and money and things like that. And there was quite a bit of sort of panic at Netflix at the time, and to be honest, we were quite lucky because our show actually, we finished the last episode, we got it past the line, like with like the days to go before that happened. Some shows weren't so lucky and literally got canned like in the middle of production, and my heart goes out to anyone who had that happen, because you put your heart and soul into these things. And we basically got told that because they were trying to do everything they could to save money rather than spend it, to put the show onto the actual platform is a process they call optimization, I think, which costs money. And so they said, look, we're going to put a pin in that whilst we put the main answer time out. We'll still go ahead and do the YouTube launch, and then we'll go back and revisit that. And they didn't. But my hope is that because it's now, the show's now, you know, won the Kids Screen Award, it's got now just had the Emmy nomination, someone at Netflix will say, hey, we're still sitting on this thing and it's clearly good. Maybe we should actually put it on the platform. And I think the thing that would probably help that is actually people getting in touch and giving messages on social media, like, you know, message Netflix, say, hey, where is this show? We want to have it on the platform. Why isn't it? There's no point. You know, so do a petition. We'd love that. Yeah, honestly, it was heartbreaking. It was very heartbreaking to me. It was very heartbreaking to everyone on the crew because we'd all been working for, you know, a couple of years on this thing and giving it our all. And it's a shame when it doesn't reach the full audience that you had expected it would. But every single frame of that show, I think all of us are incredibly proud of. And everything that's in it, you know, we managed to be lucky enough, again, thanks to Evan and Greg really kind of pushing for the show, defending it, to come away with a show where every single part of every single episode is what we wanted and what we wanted to make. And that kind of doesn't often happen, which is fantastic. And I do hope that at some point, someone at Netflix will press the button to go, yes, put on platform. But I can't make that happen myself.
Well, the chance if you guys do win the Emmy award on the show coming this March, if you do get the award, then maybe possibly, you know, someone at Netflix will see that and like, hey, this show has like an award. We should probably put that on there and we should promote it. And like,
I hope so. You know, I think it's a bit of a cliche with that sort of stuff to say it's an honor just to be nominated. With this show, because it was such a small show and such a small crew, every single other show that is nominated in that category has, you know, like 10 times the budget, 10 times the crew size of ours. So with this, it genuinely is like the nomination is the honor to be recognized.
It feels like a miracle. It feels like a miracle that this show even got the attention of the kid. Like it was a miracle that anybody has even seen the show to me, because I'm like, it's on YouTube. How do people find shows on YouTube? And it was such a low budget, and the fact that even when at the Kids' Choice Awards, we were up against some huge IPs, and I thought, this is amazing. They even know that our show exists. This is amazing. It feels like a miracle like this. So the fact that people keep coming out of the blue, just like the way you got the job, which was out of the blue, which is my favorite sentence in the universe, out of the blue, because the best things happen out of the blue. So I feel like it is amazing, and you're gonna win it. You're gonna win the Emmy.
Cross fingers. Yeah, I like seriously though, I do really hope that you and everyone else who were involved in the show can get that award and, you know, and make a name for yourself. Just, you know, just feel proud of like what you do, even if you don't win. Like just like you should just like feel like all this like. You should feel very proud about, like, you know,
everyone on this team does, and honestly, Frank, like the things that make it is stuff like this, where we see the, you know, fans actually connected with the show. My goodness, like you made a whole documentary about it. That doesn't happen without, you know, a lot of love for the show, and when we see something like that, it makes it. So, you know, thank you for putting that sort of stuff together.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like it is a very, like, you know, time consuming process, like, you know, with making this project like these. I do want to eventually get to, like, you know, that Super Silly Stories with Bo show eventually at some point. I'm not sure when, but I'll probably be like in the next maybe coming year or so. But really, it's just like, I mean, I'll be honest, like I'm not really that good at making videos. I mean, there are probably people out there that can make videos much faster or better quality than me, but I do really appreciate, you know, just like seeing all the feedback, you know, from both fans and from, like, you know, just the fact that like the whole crew can like watch these videos that I make is just like, you know, I couldn't ask for anything better. Like, let alone just being here with me tonight is really something, you know, that I couldn't ask for anything better. It's really something, and I honestly, like, you know, get very emotional like every time I talk with people like you. Every single time, it's honestly like, you know, it feels like I owe these guys so many things that I really want to say everything. Like, sorry if my wording is like poor at the moment, but I just really love everything that you do. Like, seriously, it's like all very, very high quality stuff that you make, and I can't really say any better stuff that I haven't said already. It's just amazing. Like, really.
That's incredibly appreciated.
Oh my God. All right. Let's go back to another question on the forum. Yeah, we still have like a lot of questions here. I'll try to get through them as fast as possible.
Okay. I have to pick my wife up from the airport on Sunday, but I've got like.
We'll try to go rapid fire with these questions. So let's see. What's a good one we pick? Okay. Okay. So this one could be answered by pretty much anyone. So someone by the name of Cosmic Girl wants to know like what the story process is like for the episodes. Like, how exactly, like when you guys make episodes for the show, like how exactly was that process, like, you know, exactly translated from script to picture?
Scott, do you want to take it, or should I?
Well, we've more or less answered that, I think.
I feel like we've covered a lot of that, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely started with a script that we had finished, and that we knew everything that we wanted to record. But at the same time, we left it open so that, you know, we knew that the kids were going to take it in different directions. And so what we recorded was ultimately not going to be exactly what we had developed at first.
I mean, we'd start with a script and a framework, and the most important thing from that was the verse, because, you know, Scott is unbelievably amazing with verse, and obviously the rhyming part of the story is the most important. So once we had that framework, like, it was just kind of a series of mucking about, basically. Like, it would be, we get the script, and then I generally kind of make like what we call a scratch version, which was you know, doing the voices and kind of just riffing around on the mic and improvising. And from that, like, extra gags would come in. Then we get the kids footage, and from the kids footage, lots and lots of extra gags would come in, and it would change and it would go back and forth. And even like with Erin, you know, when we were in the booth, sometimes extra stuff would come up and then we would change it again. So it was always just this continual thing of keeping it fluid and trying to just make it hopefully as funny as possible. Oh, and also, actually, sorry, one thing we haven't mentioned is that there were a few episodes where we kind of decided to mix things up, and we called them did we call them free-for-all episodes? I want to say, I think.
Yeah.
Where these were ones where I specifically kind of tried to pick groups of the most talkative, the most amazing, the most like hilarious kids. And rather than kind of starting off necessarily from the script, we'd start off from the kid interviews, and we'd go through those, and we'd see all of the crazy stuff that was being said, and then we'd reverse engineer the episode and build it backwards from there and write completely around what the kids were saying. And those ones were like the Storm episode, the birthday
robot episode,
the robot episode, the giant, the robot hero, and that tended to take a little bit longer. It was a little bit more involved because things would just go off in such crazy angles, and you'd have to kind of really write around that. But those were some of our favorite ones because I think they're the most anarchic, they're the most ridiculous episodes in the show, you know.
One element that developed along the way was that Henry did something that I didn't really expect. He would include long digressions from one of the kids if they just started going off on something funny. So we had the thing that, you know, we had talked about Nessie, and here's this kid who wants to talk about Bigfoot, you know, and he lives up in the Northwest where nobody goes.
Oh my God! Shout out to Jude. That was Jude, and Jude, you are amazing. You've made an episode.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. I actually, one thing was those little transgressions, those little kind of weird sidelines that the episodes would go into. So by the time we kind of because when you're making a show, like the first 3 episodes, you've got all the time in the world for. By the time you get to the end episodes, everything's kind of piling up sort of schedule wise. And so we got to a point where sometimes we weren't sure what was going to make it into an episode and what wouldn't. To the extent where we would, and Erin, you remember this, like the last few episodes, we would go in and we would have like the regular sort of script for what Erin would record. And that was usually about 4 pages. And then we would have like the blue pages, which were the kind of weird tangents where I wasn't sure if it was going to go into the episode or not, but let's just explore this and go crazy. And I think like the time travel episode, for example, like the actual script was about 4 pages. And then we had like 11 pages of just random stuff about, okay, and we might just go into a whole scene with Marie Curie here. I don't know. But it might work. Yeah, and the scripts kind of looked like a choose your own adventure. It was kind of like, you know, if this, go to page 7. If this happens, go to page 6 or whatever. And it was an interesting way to do it.
Definitely, like the interactivity of just like the just the thought of like, because I'm not sure if any of you ever heard like the Netflix interactive videos. I believe they were like introduced like sometime like before pandemic started. Like they was like
like the Black Mirror one.
I think or like Bandersnatch. I think yeah. You basically choose whichever path you do you take, and whichever path you took will result in like a different ending. There could be like hundreds of endings like to like the one episode.
I mean, my goodness, that would be great to do a Super Silly Stories like that. Yeah.
Netflix work really well.
There's a season 2.
The audience at home gets to throw in their suggestions.
That would be great. That would be great.
And speaking of like possibility of a season 2, if there ever does come the chance, like there's somehow Netflix wants to continue the Super Silly Stories with Bo show, like the idea of just like continuing out the show. I mean, at the end of like the first batch of episodes, like with the last episode especially, it was very like a very, I guess a quote unquote book end to the series, and like
story book end, yeah.
Yeah, and very poetic in that. Like if there is like the possibility of like continuing with a season 2, like how exactly would you say do you think the series could like go from there, like after like such a beautiful ending like that from the show?
I mean, Scott, jump in. This isn't something we'd massively discussed, but I certainly had worked out like a good chunk of what could go into a season 2 if it ever happened. I think I don't think it will, because we haven't heard anything from Netflix. You never know. Like there were things that I wanted to kind of explore and I thought could be quite interesting, like taking the arc of the first season where the storybook characters started kind of becoming a bit more independent and self-aware and stuff. I thought like one thing that could be really interesting would be to have an arc where eventually you kind of actually get like a villain character, where you have the kids in the last couple of episodes actually having to, battle this storybook sort of bad guy would be quite interesting. I think there were different things that we could do. There were still spins and takes and different variations that we hadn't started to explore.
And then adding to that, like in like the chance of like just having another spin-off show from Storybots, like and this is something I've heard from like a lot of fans of the show, and they really want to see like is like with that that drive of having just one character drive the whole show, like with Bo as the example for this show. What fans really want to see is like other characters getting the spotlight, maybe some of the other 5 story, but maybe like what about like Beep's like the main character, maybe she can get her own. I
remember we threw out a bunch of ideas as a cast. We were coming up with really fun ideas for spinoffs for each of the characters, and there were some really good ideas that were thrown at Evan and Greg, which I believe they pitched to Netflix, but they didn't. We haven't heard anything, so maybe I'm sure it didn't go anywhere. But there were some great ideas that I don't want to say, just in case, But yeah, there was, because I felt the same way. It would be really fun.
Yeah, definitely, and seeing like the other characters and see maybe a little bit more about what they have to in store, like because maybe like there's something in Boop that we haven't seen like already.
Hear Boop read a story.
Was to only work with Bo exclusively. This is the
definitely was a drive, certainly.
I feel like you feel that way, Henry. I think you like all my friends and you'd like to play with all of us.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Okay. All right. The question we have here. Okay, we have an Erin question. This one goes by Mason. Mason. Wait, this isn't the same. Wait, hold on.
Is that the Mason?
It may be the Mason. If you're the Mason, let us know. If you're a Mason,
it legit just says Mason. That's all it says. Like this guy,
Okay.
Mason.
Hi, Mason.
It could be the same Mason. I'm not sure.
Favorite Mason?
Let's see what they're okay. Oh, okay. Erin, I need to ask you. What are your thoughts? And I'm sorry if I'm going to go off topic here for a second, but it is still a Storybots question. Erin, what are your thoughts on the Space Adventure special?
I was really happy to go to space. I was very happy to work with my friends on a special. And I was very happy to get to see everybody in the middle of a pandemic. And even though we were all masked up. And I was excited for a new team of people to take a crack at a Storybot story, which I'm sure was very daunting and overwhelming. And to come in on such a big IP with the team that had been working together for so many years, to have to come out of nowhere with a fresh script, that couldn't have been easy. So I feel like the special, they did the best. They put their heart into it. They did what they could, and it just has a different energy than the other stuff because it was just made outside of the family kind of a thing. But they did a great job creating something that wouldn't have been created otherwise. So because the team was so busy doing the main show. So yeah, I give credit. Making anything in this industry is hard. Creating anything in this industry is hard. And especially when you're coming in on an IP that's already established, it's hard. And I know that the fans feel like it doesn't resonate with the same as the rest of the show, but that's why it doesn't feel the same vibration as the rest of the show. But that it doesn't mean that people didn't work their hardest and try their hardest. So I respect all the artists involved, all the creators, all the producers, the writers. They did their very best. And I'm glad it's out there.
Yeah, I mean,
I do the Space Adventure show. Did I ever tell you that, Erin?
Yeah.
Yeah, at one point they were saying that Greg said, "Oh, we might put Super Silly Stories on hold for a bit, and then could you go and do this space thing that we've arranged with SpaceX, and then we'll carry on with Super Silly Stories after that's kind of done, because that's kind of a time sensitive, the SpaceX launch was a time sensitive thing. So I got to the point of properly, writing something up and going through all of the SpaceX footage and all of the documentary footage. And it went a little way, but then I think they kind of realized, oh no, that's a lot on your plate. Like you just carry on with Super Silly Stories.
Yeah.
I gave it to other folks, but yeah.
I mean, I do want to keep it brief when I say this, but
do the best we can.
Well, I myself may have been a bit harsh on it if you haven't seen that video on it, but I really, even though I kind of have just a little disdain over it. I still do to an extent, but I don't hate the idea of it. The idea of just the Storybots going into space. After seeing the Planets episode, it was it sounds like a great idea. I'll admit, that idea of having Storybots being tied to a real life event and that's happening in real life time. It honestly sounds like an amazing idea. It really does. I just think execution wise, maybe it could have been. I think everyone could agree it could have been a little better than how it was presented. At least that's coming from me. At least
I know I had a difficult time for the first time because it was the first time Storybots were separated from each other. And I had such a hard time that Beep wasn't present. That was really difficult for me as an actor because me and Bo are kind of the same and we want all our friends together. So it was difficult for me to think of recording something without Beep because she's kind of the leader. You know what I mean? How are we going to do anything if Beep isn't here?
Yeah. So
I feel like maybe the episode went left because Beep wasn't there. If she was there, she would have gotten everything organized and it would have been perfect.
Hey, you can't forget about the red guy either. Let alone one Storybot down, let alone two Storybots being removed. It's just only having 3 of the team. Like, I mean, honestly, it really doesn't make like sense. Like, just like they operate as like, just as a team effort. Like, you can't have like the same 5 without like, with 1 missing or 2 missing from the same team, at least from like how I see it. Because like without, I mean, I could see why they wanted to like remove like someone like Boop, because like, I mean, he does add charm, yeah, but like, but to remove Beep from the special, I was like, what? How can you do that? I mean, I think you see them in the intro, but like that's it. That's all you see, Beep. I just guess we'll never know why. But like, just like, keeping it brief here, like, just about the whole space adventure. I mean, I myself may not have like, the best opinions about it, the special, but I can see like, the idea being, having promise, like having like a lot of showing a lot, and maybe if it was done correctly, maybe like, it could have been like one of the best things ever, honestly. And maybe, maybe it'll
Once he comes in as a producer, everything will get cleared out, no question.
Erin has a good point though. Making stuff is always really hard, and I think people don't appreciate just how hard making stuff is. It's a long, difficult process, and often sometimes you make stuff and it's fantastic, and then through reasons completely beyond your control, be it sort of notes or things like that, sometimes things don't end up the way you wanted them. It's a very, very complicated process. It can be, but yeah. Can I ask Jared a question?
Of course, go ahead.
Non-space related question. Jared, I love that, like, throughout the show, your art always looks like your art, but you went through so many different styles and so many different influences. And, you did some stuff which was like the old sort of 50s cartoon sort of style, like the space episode. I'm trying to think of the technical name for it. I can't. Or like the film noir episode. It always looked like your stuff, but you went through so many different sort of styles. What was your favorite episode to design and draw?
Oh, good grief. I think because we did them, they were produced sort of in order. And so like the earlier episodes, like I watch them now and I sort of can remember like trying to sort of figure that stuff out, just because like the production timelines were so quick. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to really sort of mess around with stuff. And so I think that the stuff that I like is like towards the back half of the series or the season. It felt like I felt like I was starting to find my stride a little bit, and then we were done. And so probably honestly, the one of the reasons why I love the Robot Hero episode so much is because of that. Like the episode itself is just fantastic and it's a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of fun to draw, and sort of you kind of like kind of like what Erin was saying earlier about like capturing that energy, and you just sort of it's it moves through you, I guess. And so that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that episode a lot.
Especially, yeah. And like, before actually starting this, I was like doing like a lot of some research on like some of your books, like some of the books you've made. One of them I think was like Underwear Vegetables, I think it was called. One of your books.
Yeah, Vegetables and Underwear. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very interesting, like, style, like from like, the aesthetic and like the illustrations, like, and especially like in your future books from that, and how they like, as like I mentioned it before, like how they look eerily similar to the show, and how it like, translates well to it. And I just gotta say, like, it's really interesting seeing like, of someone like, originally from a book author going into like a show, like a high production show like this. It's like it's very like what's surreal to see.
Oh yeah, and it was very surreal to live too. Like it very much felt like that, because like it was like I do the books, and so I work alone, and like the amount of words I say in a day is very small, and then all of a sudden it was like we were in production, and like I was having like, this feels very familiar because this is how we made the show, was all through Zoom meetings and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just it was really nice to see people, even though we were on Zoom, but to be able to feel like you were a part of a team after having spent so much time sort of you know, I make books with people, but you know, a lot of that time is spent alone. And anyways, it was really nice. And so like I did feel like a fish out of water though. So
I think honestly, like, you know, when everyone, like, especially for the new people that came in, it's like, it was just like a joyride just to, like, you know, be involved in a project like this. And especially like, even for, like, you know, longtime veterans of the show, like Scott here and Erin and like everyone else that was like been near there since day one, the show. It was like, you know, just like, and like that sort of like constant evolving of the show, and like how it like once started from political satire videos from Jib Jab all the way all the way to like where it is today. It's like it's a very like interesting process how it came to be. And like
I'm sorry, go ahead, Frank. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you go, Jerry.
I was gonna say, like, and also I should say, like, you know, having like never worked as a member of a crew before and then coming to this show, like as far as like crews go, I won the lottery, because like the Storybots crew, like everybody is like insanely nice and just welcoming, and it was for someone who'd never done this before, like it couldn't have been a better experience. Like they're top notch, as talented as they are as artists and storytellers. They are those type of people, just with kindness.
Yeah. Yeah, and while like, you know, I myself have never been like in any of any of your productions ever, like, you know, from what I hear like from Evan and Greg, the reason like, you know, why this like whole crew is like a very nice place to be in is just like, you know, the brothers like see like they try to like get the best out of everyone. They see like, you know, the talents that everyone has, even if people don't think they have talent inside them, they still like, you know, believe in like that every single person on this universe has something in them that they should be proud of. They should be like, you know, put it out there in the world. And like, you know, when it comes, whether it be like writer, editor, voice actor, animator, whatever.
They are staggeringly good at finding people. And
I truly, sorry to interrupt you, Henry.
Of course.
I truly believe that Evan and Greg are true Jim Henson hearts. And so because they operate at that place, and that's a special place of unconditional love that exists in the planet, and Jim Henson had it. And so when Jim Henson went to approach, because he did not put his ego first, he put this unconditional love first, and he attracted all of these unconditional love artists. So people who operate from unconditional love attract people who operate in unconditional love, because no one's ego is more important than the thing that the team is creating. Evan and Greg have that. They have that Jim Henson feeling. They have that. And I foresaw when I was a teenager, I had a image, like a prescience moment where I thought I saw myself working with Jim Henson. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to grow up and work with Jim Henson. I was convinced of it because I saw it. I saw it in my mind's eye. And then when Jim Henson passed away, I was shattered because I thought, but that doesn't line up with this image that I have. And then one day I was standing in the booth across from Jeff Gill with his beard. He looked exactly like Jim Henson. And I realized that this was the moment I saw all those years back when I was a kid. I was standing across from Jeff Gill, and it had the same feeling as Jim Henson. And Jeff really looked like Jim Henson. So it was a whole thing. So what I say is that the reason the kindness is all in this team is because it's the leaders of this team were pure kindness, and that's all they attracted. And if anybody showed up with just, if they felt insecure or if their hearts weren't fully open, they just gently would kind of move that person out of the space. Because if you weren't coming with your full heart, offering up your full heart, no insecurities can be present when everyone's operating from a full heart. You have to show up and do your best, because everybody else is showing up and doing their best, and insecurities can't show up, ego can't show up. All of that stuff just kind of you have to return to that childlike state of play. And they are amazing at how whatever they do, Storybots or anything that they create, those two individuals prove that it's possible to keep that Jim Henson intention authentic, true, and pure. And everybody who's here, all these smiling faces, and the team members in the chat also operate from that place. So anything any of these humans create is going to come from that. So pay attention to the people who worked on the team and follow them with whatever they create, wherever they go, because they're coming with that love. And I think that's what people resonate with. I know I do.
Man, I almost teared up.
Very well put, Erin.
Yeah.
You know, I can say that I think it's really in the Spirit Ellis DNA that they're looking for people who have that a kind of a humility, you know, along with, you know, it's great if you have confidence in your talent and you're putting your heart into it. But I remember when I first interviewed with Evan for working at Jib Jab, and he said, you know, sure, we need talent, but you can be as talented as Picasso, but if you act like Picasso, we're not going to hire you. You know?
I've made shows for about sort of 18 years, and working with those two, you know, this is just going to turn it. This is just a massive sort of tribute sesh, but no, it's genuinely two of the best people I've ever worked for, and with. Like, they managed to combine unbelievable creativity with absolute generosity. You know, it's like what Erin was saying. It's like they want everyone on the to be able to do their thing in their way and make this sort of space for that, and that's really rare. And then they also have the business side and the technical side of things as well, which is very, very, you know, it's a really, really interesting combination. And then, yeah, it's no coincidence that the first conversation I had with Evan was like an hour and a half of talking about deep dives into the Muppets. Yeah.
They are like some of the best like people, and that, like, that's honestly, like, when I say, like, you know, they are the best people I've ever met in my entire life, that is not an exaggeration. Like, I know I say this like a million times before, but like Evan and Greg, I have so much to talk about for them. They have like done so much, like, you know, love, and like, you know, not just from like making like, you know, their very own kids property, but just like how they care about every single person that they ever work with in their entire career. Every single person, like, no matter how small they may be, they are like, you know, it's like every one of them is like a family member to them. It's like every single person, they have like so much talent, care, and passion for the show just as much as they do. And like, that's honestly what I personally think of is what I think why I believe that, you know, Storybots is one of the best intellectual properties ever made. in that sense, like, it's really like, you know, something else to be proud of, like, and just because it's nothing, it's like, because most companies, like, you know, nowadays, like, you know, with the big shot company Disney, DreamWorks, and all those other companies, they're like, you know, what they make is like very high budget, it's very like, you know, good in quality, it's like it never really like it's never really captures the same, like, you know, compassion and like, you know, feeling of like, you know, to every single individual on like the studio as much as these two are. Like, you don't really see that in like, you know, major companies nowadays, because all they care about is like, you know, we'll make them the best profits. That's like showbiz for like any company out there. But like, when it comes to like, you know, these two, it's like, you know, you've entered like, you know, a whole other world. It honestly, in my words at least, I'd say it's like a utopia in a sense.
I think when you love something, you inspire other people to love it too. And if people are loving what they do and what they're making, then they will go above and beyond. Like, everyone on our crew was, you know, doing multiple roles. They were doing hours beyond, like, you know, working in to make something that they loved and were proud of, because it's this thing. 1 second. So this is a little Hap Scrubby, and
oh my god!
So this was made by Amy, who was helped Jared with the colors and illustrations and everything. And at the end, just made this because she loved working on the show and loved Storybots and things. And it's that kind of like, you know, that love and passion for the thing that you can't buy it, you inspire it.
Wow, that's incredible. That is impressive.
I've never used him to actually scrub dishes because I am not gonna, I can't.
Oh no, that is incredibly valuable. Cherish it with like all your memory. I mean, I have all like the toys here, like, but nothing can even compare to like something as personal as that. I mean, I actually hold on, give me one sec. Oh yes, here they are. I'm not sure if you've gotten them, but when I've gotten recent box, I've gotten a bunch
Oh
of the
My stickers are downstairs.
yeah, I mean, like this is only like the tip of the iceberg of the amount of stuff I've received from them, and it's some of the most incredible. And like you can't like really buy these in the store. Like you can't like you get them on the store shelves. Like it's like these are like exclusive.
Those were made for the premiere. Those were made for the premiere, the Answer Time premiere. They were at the premiere party. Those are special. Yeah, there were a few items made just for that premiere party. And so it seems that you have been invited into the circle, Frank. Congratulations.
I used to joke with Jared that we needed to have some super silly stories like specific merch, because whenever you would do a design of something that a kid has shouted out, like a banana ghost or whatever, and I was like, no, we need a banana ghost action thing. We need that.
I want the time machine on my fridge as a magnet. Can I get the time machine magnet?
I'll see. Let's see if that can be possible. I mean, I might talk with some individuals to make that possible, but we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. But one thing I don't have, it's probably somewhere here. It's like those cards, like the Answer Time cards, like those physical Answer Time flash cards.
Those were also at the party. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where it is in my basement right now, but I have like somewhere. But I also have like the digital version. Like they have like all the printed ones that were posted on social media, and like some of them weren't actually used like ever. Like they were never publicized ever. Like some of these cards are very exclusive and only like the crew members and me like only have access to them. And now
I have a set.
Yeah, I think everyone was like, I think Nate and Evan were the ones that made the cards and sent them out to all the crew members and stuff as like gifts for working on the show, which is honestly really incredible to just make sure. Oh no, that's not. I thought there was like something else there, but okay. Let's see what we got next. We'll get to another. Okay. We'll give this one to Scott for this next question. So. This is being like a veteran of Storybots ever since like it was first put on the scene. What would you say is like out of all the times you've been in the early days? What would you say is like your favorite time that you had working for them during those early years of the Storybots?
During the early years, yeah, I mean, if you ask me that question just broadly, I would say the year that I worked with this team and also did some work for Storybots Answer Time. But if you want to take it back, I had the opportunity to do a couple of song series, and one that we did was on numbers 1 through 10, and so I got to write all of the songs. We started out trying to do them as kind of old style rock and roll, and I think Evan or someone had the idea, what if we bring in a bluegrass band and redo them as bluegrass? And that struck a chord with me because I used to play bluegrass fiddle. And so I'll give that a try. And so we ended up doing this series of 10 videos, 1 through 10, all in bluegrass style. And I thought they came out just wonderful. So yeah, that was my...
Did you play the fiddle on them, Scott?
Only on one of them, I think. Actually, I don't think even then. I think just on a scratch track, I did 1 or 2 where.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of the number song, I was like looking. I was like doing like again like doing some research on more Storybot stuff. While I was like looking up those songs, I was trying to find who exactly sung those songs. I was trying to find like the credits, and I couldn't find like who the exact person was of the song. Do you know exactly who?
I am afraid I don't know. They, they hired a band, and I don't know if it was an established bluegrass band or if it was just, pickup musicians. That would be a good question for Evan. I'm sure he would know.
I'll probably have to send it over to him for his inquiries. There was another again with the there was another song collection. I think it was like The Professions, I believe. Like all those songs. There was also another singer. It's a different singer. And they weren't like listed on the credits in the songs. So I was like trying to wonder like who exactly sung those songs as well. But I couldn't really find like any like proper credits for it. Those specific songs. So I was just wondering like exactly who did those songs.
Yeah. Again, I would write those songs, and I would record scratch tracks, and then send those into Evan and Greg, and from there they took it to whoever was going to do the professional music production. So yeah, I usually wasn't informed of.
Okay, gotcha. Because like with music, with like the singers, like some of it like are obvious. Perry Grip, Gabe,
right.
the Wiener Brothers, and a few others.
I was always really excited when I heard Perry was going to do one of my songs, because
it's like because Perry's like a really good musician, like because he not only does like kids songs, he does just songs in general, and Evan has like a really good relationship like with Perry, and like when they do like songs, like they kind of work hand in hand with each other when they make songs, especially like when their first ever songs were made like solely on Perry, like the ABC songs, all that.
Right.
All that was Perry.
I had no idea that Perry was involved with Storybots until I started, and I remember when I met him, and I was like, "Oh, I've been a big fan of your stuff, Raging." He's like, "Oh yeah, the internet videos." I'm like, "No, Nerf heard it, dude. Like he did the theme song for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's amazing."
Another really talented songwriter and singer. There, Perry's like one of the best, and Gabe as well, which I wish he would have been. I wish he would have been here today. Gabe is another one like that because really
he may be being shy and in the audience. I think I think he might be around.
Yeah, I just got to say, like his songs are like so incredible, especially like when he asked the Storybot song. I mean, come on, who doesn't love that song? Like every single day I listen to that. I always get stuck in my head, living inside computer part and all that.
Well, the musical episode that Erin and Scott mentioned, Gabe did the music for that, and I think I'm going to speak for him, but I think he had an absolute blast doing that, getting to do like a mini musical with like a whole bunch of songs just really compressed into a short amount of time. He went so whole hog on that, like he did such a lovely job with it. I mean,
it was
different West End Broadway musicals, like in tiny time.
A musician working for a music-related episode. It works hand in hand, of course.
But yeah, Gabe was always a pleasure to work with, and again, just brought his own sensibility. One of my favorite songs that I wrote for early Storybots was about the letter R, and he's a pirate character, and Gabe did the music for that, and I thought beautiful job recording it.
Yeah, like especially like the Learn to Read songs, especially like the one all those like those word songs and all that. And I heard you did the lyrics for those songs as well with Gabe.
Yeah, although Gabe contributed a lot to that too.
Yeah, like those songs were like very like it was like very different, like especially on Netflix. It's just a song collection, but like still it's like very well crafted on like both Gabe and your end making those songs really. And then still I still listen to those songs like every day on my playlist, like every time I go out, just casually listen to Storybot songs every day. That's like something like my normal routine at this point.
Well, I feel if anybody's experiencing depression, pop on any of the Storybot. Like I go to Super Songs, Storybot Super Songs, And episode 5 is my favorite, the farm animals one. If I am feeling down or blue, that if I'm really having a tough time picking myself up, I go there first, and then I ping through the different series to my favorite episodes, and I'm always left feeling better. Like it deletes negativity. The StoryBots content, if you are feeling bombarded inside yourself with negativity, put on any StoryBots content. I promise you something will help pull you out from the pit of despair.
I do know one song, Erin. There's like one I think really resonates with you a lot. It's the one, that volcano song, the one you did. You sang.
That is the first time that someone paid me to sing that much all by myself on an episode. I was really terrified. I literally showed up to Gabe's house in full 1940s costume because I didn't know if I could do it otherwise. So I had a wig, I had a whole outfit, 1940s makeup on, and I walked in and I was like, okay, definitely, we can do this thing. I just need to be here and be in this character because I don't think I can sing otherwise. I don't sing in front of people. I'm not very comfortable with it. Now, of course, that episode changed my life because working on that song and singing in that song, it led me to doing this one-person theater show where I sing live, no music, in front of an entire audience. I never would have been able to do that if it weren't for that episode and for working with Gabe. Gabe helped me feel confident as a professional. I've always called myself an actor who could sing. This city is filled with singers, like singers who can sing and they can act, but I'm an actor who can sing in character. You're welcome. It's so good. But so it was such a big deal for me because I'm intimidated being around such incredible talent all the time in terms of singing. That's not where my confidence lies. But Gabe in that volcano episode changed all that for me. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll just ask a small question to you. This is just out of the blue. And when it comes to Bo, do you think Bo is a good singer? On days when she's with her friends?
Bo, she is the first one to say, let's sing karaoke. I'm gonna sing Rainbow Connection. She's got her songs picked and she always sings them and she's very good. Yeah, I think that Bo thinks that she's a very good singer.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my god, he cracks me up every time. Oh my god, man. Oh my god, we've been all over the place. Oh my god.
So Erin, your 1950s singer voice sounds like it gave you your Detective Bo voice as well.
It's pretty much the same thing. Yeah, thank you for noticing.
Spotted that.
Oh yeah, that's another one I really like, that detective one, because if you haven't figured it out already, I really love that any noir episode concept, because I really love detective style games, and even Evan calls me a sleuth on certain times. Whenever I make these videos and stuff. So when I saw the videos, not the video, the episode of the detective, I'm not sure what the episode name was called, but it was about detective
of the Cheese Bandit.
There it is. Yeah, that's the one. And we see Detective Boop, which appropriately fitting for his character, and we got all those other segments and answer time there. So really sets up Boop and being in character for once instead of just Boop all the time. I really love the style of it, just anything and going back, Henry, I believe I've told you already, one of your earliest works that you made. Remember Lush Town?
Oh wow, yeah.
It really
yeah.
It's just what do you have to say about the working all those years back on that process?
Yeah, so I mean, for a while I made sort of commercial, sort of I don't know, kind of experimental online marketing commercials, I suppose, for Lush Cosmetics. And one of the things that we did was this kind of mini webisode series of film noir little comedy things, which was called Lush Town. And yeah, I mean, I remember, you know, Scott, when we were sort of talking about, oh, which genres can we do, and you know, film noir was a really fun one to bring to the table. And you know, you did a wonderful script for that. And but yeah, it definitely like I seem to end up doing a film noir parody almost in everything that I end up doing. Also, random little side note on that one. We really, I ended up having to voice Detective Boop in that, even though it's not normally voiced by me. But the guys were so busy, and the scratch track was decided to sound almost exactly the same as the way they do it. So, so yeah, I actually got to voice a storyboard for once, which was lovely.
It was it's seamless, like, because like honestly, like Boop can be like one of those characters like where if you change the voice actor, you probably couldn't really tell the difference because, well, all he says is just like that one word.
Yeah.
It would be funny to do a series where a major AAA celebrity guest stars as Boop every single time. You just change them out, and then it becomes like then sleuths like Frank have to figure out who played what. Like that would be hilarious.
I mean, I imagine like, you know, someone like I don't know, like Snoop Dogg voicing Boop. Having him
to Mark Hamill, but yeah, you do you.
Like again, anyone could really voice Boop for just a couple dollars. but yeah, that would be awesome if that would be maybe for the Storybots movie. Who knows? Oh, did I oh yeah.
Well, you're not drawing anything out of us. Don't try.
Yeah, just you know, and any project, like, you know, for Storybots, if they want to, like, you know, do that's something that, you know, the brothers would be suitable of doing, then that'd be great.
One thing that they managed to do, which amazed me every time, and no, it doesn't, because actually it's back to that Muppets thing of I was going to say the number of amazing celebrities and celebrity voices and stuff, but of course, like, they love the show, their kids love the show, of course they want to do it, but even so, it still just amazed me the scale of like absolute A-list talent. Like, oh, we've got Scarlett Johansson on. Of course you do. Amazing. Like I remember when we were in a meeting and they said, oh, I think we've got Anthony Hopkins, but we need someone to go and film him at his house. And I was just like on the Zoom call, I was like, I'm in England, guys. I could do this. I can go up the road. This is okay. It's a small island. And it ended up not happening. But for a brief moment, that would have absolutely made my night.
Yeah, that's oh my god, I can't speak. What the I'm just again lost for words. Like, oh my god.
Can I drop a little thing about Super Silly Stories, which I was gonna say when we were talking about the finale episode, and I completely forgot. But it's another reason. It's another reason that one's kind of special. Is one of the things that, you know, I was saying, like, Jeff, when he was doing the interviews with the kids, had to multitask. He had to do the puppet. He had to improv a conversation with the kids. He was also handling the one-man crew filming. He was having to do the sound effects and things that was happening because he was like, it was amazing. Like, he actually made a video of it was supposed to be to sort of train up other people to be able to do it. But just as a kind of little bit behind the scenes curio, I'm going to see if I can give you that to send. But anyway, inevitably, some of the calls wouldn't work, you know, whether it was a technical problem at our end, a technical problem at the kids' end, or the bad signal or whatever. And so sometimes you would end up with chats with the kids that weren't really usable, and it would just be like there was no audio, or it would be incredibly, you know, jerky and laggy. And I always try to find a way to include the kids in some way, even if their call hadn't worked, because they'd given the time and you know, they really wanted to. And sometimes you could do that in kind of an inventive way, like in the Kaiju episode. There's a kid who was so into Kaiju, and in his like audition tape, he talked endlessly about, you know, Godzilla, Mothra, everything. And when it came to his actual chat, he had a technical problem, and it's audio, okay, and you and it was like, oh my god, it's going to break his heart, because that we're doing that, we're putting him in the kaiju episode. It's a whole thing about his passion. So we did it at this where at the start all of the kids have to point and go kaiju really emphatically, and his one breaks his monitor, and so it's part of the story why he's laggy and doesn't work for the rest of the episode. And so sometimes we were able to make that work, but there was still a handful of kids where we weren't able to include them. And so in the last episode, we made it so that there was a bit where in the rhyme Bo says, what she say? She ran through the hall past some kids on some screens, and there's a group shot of a bunch of different screens, and every kid that's on those screens is one of the kids that we weren't able to put into the actual episode, but we wanted to make sure that they were in it. So yeah, sorry, I wanted to say that just because I think it's a sweet thing. It's
Yeah, that's awesome, Henry. I didn't know that.
You didn't know that, Erin?
No, I had no idea. I didn't know that. No, that changes. I have to go back and rewatch the episode again. Because clearly, like, that is so special. And that's what I mean by you guys always put the kids first and their experience and their stories. Like, there's something so powerful about that. There's just something magical about that. I'm so grateful. That's so amazing.
Well, they put the effort in to talk to us. So, and if you go through that thing and you go through a half hour of chatting with the Storybox puppet, and then you don't end up seeing yourself on the show, like, no, I'm not going to do that to any kid if I can help it.
Henry, did you get much feedback after the shows were on YouTube from the parents or the kids?
Yeah, I mean, I did, and generally, actually, it would come through Evan and Greg, because people would reach out to them, or they'd reach out to like the main Storybots email or whatever. So often it was them sending me like messages and feedback and things. But yeah, and a lot of them are just incredibly touching. Actually, even just the other week, I got a message from someone I sort of half know through sort of Facebook and things, and her kids. She was her kids have some disabilities, and she was talking about how Storybots is they massively sort of connect to it, and it's anything where you get a message where it's connected, and it's what you do. It's why you do it. And I'm sure you feel the same way, Scott.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. For a while, I was running the Storybots social media stuff, and
right.
Yeah. And I remember there was one of the songs I did for the Profession series about a chef. And there was a video that someone sent in of their kid who had autism, which strikes a chord with me because my son also has autism. And he was repeatedly singing that song. It was just something that connected. It's just so rewarding to see that kind of thing.
Yeah. And speaking of, I'm not sure if any of you know about me, because I also have autism as well. I'm just enjoying the show, and I
also have autism. Thank you.
Wouldn't be surprised if most of the team is autistic. Just going back,
it's so ordinary.
Going back to the autistic appeal to this show, it's always I've always had the idea of that maybe there's a project or something where I think Sesame Street also did something as similar with an autistic episode where had a child. I think her name was Julia. I'm not sure if you've seen the episode. They had a little child puppet named Julia. She had severe autism, and she had all these sensory issues, if something's too loud, or if maybe she doesn't have any the best social skills. And it really just shows the best of just what these kind of people go through, because I feel at least in in my perspective, I feel autism is really almost felt like a stereotype to the general public. It feels that people really don't really see the same way of autism as other people do. And I don't really feel that sort of I'm sorry if I'm getting a bit touchy with this, but
I think this is an important thing to say, Frank, because I don't fit the stereotype of what people perceive autism to be, but I'm autistic with ADHD and I mask a lot of the time. So yeah, I totally appreciate you pointing that out because it is important.
Yeah, exactly. And like, just like, as someone like, who's grown up with like on all these like, all these issues like within my life, because like really, and I might go in like into a whole backstory here, but I'll keep it brief. Like at the time, like I really wasn't like, the best person to be around. Like I was like honestly kind of like the awkward kid, like the odd kid out in the group. And like I really wasn't like, really engaging much. I just was like doing stuff like, by myself and like doing stuff, all the stuff. I mean, I did have friends, but like, they really didn't really last long in like the elementary days. But like, just like it was like sort of a different, like, it wasn't like, the typical normal person life they would have like as a child, like, and it was like very like it was like really like putting a hamper on like what I can do like in today. And even today, like I just like still have like all these like problems like when they just communicating to people, and it just it's hard to put it into like exact words like as it is, but it's very difficult in a sense to really get that message out to someone, and to really see like all these other people like going through this exact exact same struggles as like me, like that, like I'm not the only person that has like the same experience as all these other people. It really just seems like the bigger scope to it all, like all these people like go through the same stuff, and like just really feels, and like going to Storybots, like that like appeal it has like towards, I really think that Storybots has like an appeal like that no really ever talks about to like the spectrum. And it just makes me so like it makes me feel a lot of stuff like that I wouldn't. It relieves my stress. It gets rid of like all negativity inside me. It gets rid of all like the negative thoughts I have. Honestly just gets rid of my sins.
It also gives me great vocal stems to play with all day that I enjoy, and I will repeat the same. There's so many like one of my favorite vocal stems is interrupting cow. Again, episode 5, the song, super songs of the Storybots. The interrupting cow bit I don't know how many times I've watched it, probably thousands at this point. I watch the same comfort shows. I go to the same. I understand everything that you're saying, Frank. Everything you're saying relates to my heart as well, and I appreciate that there is an entire neurodivergent audience for this show, because I feel as a neurodivergent person there is not enough content that is heart. We're heart people for the most part, not always, but for a lot of us, and we need heart content. I watch the same shows because it feels safe to my heart, and I'm not going to go to a meltdown from watching them, right? That's not going to get me emotionally worked up or trigger my sound sensitivities. So I totally get that. Something I didn't think about when we were making the show. I knew that I loved the show, making the show. I'm like, this is so good. I love this. It feels like Sesame Street. That kind of feeling. But it didn't occur to me on the mass scale that, oh, right, because people like me are going to love the show in the same way that I love the show, whatever their age is. And that's been one of the most wonderful surprises of all the Storybots content, Super Silly Stories, all the shows, is that it appeals to everybody everywhere. And in being neurodivergent, there's a lot of things under that umbrella, like there's CPTSD, there's OCD, autism, ADHD, Down syndrome. There's a lot of things under the neurodivergent banner. So I love that, totally unbeknownst to any of the creators, because that wasn't their intention, but because I feel like if you're attracting the heart people to watch the show, that's got to be a good sign.
And it fills the gap as well, like to those people that want to see a show like this, and then like in that fact that this show like gets everyone's attention, and like no matter like what the age is. Like I'm like a 20-year-old just still watching like this preschool show. And like I'll just ask this to like everyone, like, you know, everyone who's worked on the show, and I think everyone can come to the same conclusion. Like, is there anything inherently wrong with liking a kid's show above your 20s? Is there anything wrong with that?
Dude, like two of my all-time favorite shows is Gravity Falls and Steven Universe. Like I love. I don't even feel like it's. Some shows you can maybe call kid shows, but I think a lot of shows are all ages shows, you know. And I think a lot of it's like some of the best examples, like the way that Pixar make movies. You know, I don't think of a brilliant Pixar film as a kids movie. It's just a good movie that's able to be enjoyed by everyone. And I think, you know, a lot of the best shows are like that.
Yeah,
Good is good.
And, you know, I just think if a show is good, even if it's aimed at kids, it's going to appeal to adults too. It's just going to have a certain level of quality. And Storybots never really shied away from throwing in a few things for the adults too. I mean, the volcano episode, Bob Fossil.
Or even that one Answer Time episode where it was like just pretty much The Shining the whole episode.
Or the Indiana Jones Fractions episode, like Chef's Kiss.
Yeah. Like there's clearly like, you know, like a target audience for like everyone, even like with all those like, you know, adult humor that you find, like all those that stuff. But,
I think when you're interacting with people using that term that Henry said, all ages, just because some people think all ages means kids, it doesn't. It means all ages. You go to Disneyland because it's all ages. You don't go to Disneyland just because you have a little kid.
Or just playing a video game, you know, like how they say like made E for everyone. It doesn't mean like only kids can play these games. That means everyone can play these games. It's like that sort of comparisons, like the whole audience that plays these, that watches or plays this stuff. And going back, like oh my god, where was I at? And like I've seen like a lot of real life cases that people I talk to in real life, like where they like, you know, they watch these, like they're like pretty much the same age as me, and they still watch like, you know, these preschool shows. And like there have been like, you know, real times where like, you know, they would get bullied in school by like, you know, liking these shows. Like they say, oh, you're watching that show, that show's only made for babies, and like then they get bullied for that alone. And it really, like, you know, like severely traumatizes them. Like just think, you know, they feel embarrassed for liking these shows because they get like bullied for them all the time. And it really just, honestly, I just don't get it. Like, you know, from the people that just don't really see like good quality in, like, it's like they just assume that every preschool show is just like, you know, only gonna appeal to kids. It's just gonna be like the equivalent of brain rot, essentially.
But isn't that their loss? That means that they're not giving their heart the opportunity to watch content that would make their heart happy. I can't imagine, what do they think grown-up shows have to be? If it's just shows with a lot of cussing and a lot of violence, how does an individual who's bullying someone for that, how does their heart feel, is what my first question would be. It's like, oh, you're not watching heartfelt television? Why not? What is it that, I mean, I figure that person needs a hug, probably.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that like all sorts of like different genre, they horror, action, or just straight up drama. Like there's like a whole wide of like people. They I guess that just really boils down to like how the general public sees, like, you know, most kid shows. And like I'll just say, like, you know, for most kid shows that I've seen, at least, you know, even after like Storybots has already been precedented in the world, it really doesn't really hold up, like in like, because like there's all this content, like, you know, all this absorbing for kids, but there wasn't really anything really for the adults to enjoy. It's like you have to sit this with your kids, and even to this day it just feels like a drag. Like you really just don't want to be there. It's only like made for kids.
And I think part of the appeal of watching Super Silly Stories for Bo, even as a grown-up, is like there's nothing as a grown-up watching those real little kids like watching those little kids is adorable. It is adorable. I can't see any grown-up watching an episode of Super Silly Stories with Bo and not having their heart go, oh my gosh, that's so cute, because it is so cute. Like that even though there's little kids in the episodes doesn't mean it's just for little kids. Like it's just so, I think I love that all ages approach where if you're enjoying it, making it as a grown person, then the odds are people watching it from your age down are going to enjoy it. And how great is it that a grandparent can sit with a grandchild and watch a piece of content and everybody's enjoying it and getting the most out of it? I mean, that's the bonding experience we're hoping for, right?
I mean, I think there's you hit on something there, Erin, because I think there's like a couple of without sounding too pretentious, there's like a couple of levels to the show where if you are a kid and watching it, you are watching it from the point of view of the kids who are interrupting and causing chaos and having fun with it. But the whole other level is that Bo is essentially being a parent at story time, and she is having to deal with this anarchy and trying to keep it under control and reach the ending and make everyone have a good time. And I think watching that as a parent is a completely different experience to watching it as a kid, and you will connect and find the humor in both different sides at the same time, hopefully.
Yeah, like I guess it's like the magic of just like having like those two different perspectives of watching the show. You watch it as a kid the first time and you're like just, oh yeah, look, all this randomness fun, yay, all the silliness, yeah. And then you watch it and it take a couple years, and then you watch it as like a growing adult. You come back to the show and you watch it again, and this time it's in a different perspective. You see it like in a more grounded, more like a mother type for Bo, and seeing like Bo like treating the kids as like like kind of like a mother figure would, like everyone. And then like especially during the end, like during that final episode, it has more meaning to it when you really like get absorbed into all the stories and all the episodes into it. And it really just like again rewatching that whole series, because I rewatch, like before this meeting started, I rewatched every single episode, all 26 in one day. And I mean, it was definitely,
you were the one that put the view count up by 1. Thank you.
I mean, it was definitely a long watch. I think it was like roughly 2 hours of content. Yeah, and honestly, it was I came out of this like with a positive outlook. It was like it was different. It was very creative, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before. And I really just enjoy how like it was all structured together. It was very it was a well put together project, just like all the others. Because like I don't really know if there's like a definitive like project that Storybots is in, because it's like honestly they keep pushing the bar higher and higher and higher with the show. Because when it first started, when they started making those ABC songs, now going into world-class shows and specials, it really is like quite the transformation of how the show evolves and how more people can get into it and appreciate the show more. And like and with the additional the secret they're calling it like the codename Secret Project right now, with the current Storybot show, they're just like they're pushing the stakes even higher than they did like from all the previous shows, and it just really shows that dedication that they have for like just wanting to expand their show into like new territories and like what they've never done before.
I mean, you did, Erin and Scott, you were working on Answer Time at the same time, so you maybe didn't have this so much, but we used to do these weekly like Zoom group meetings because it was still lockdown and pandemic and everyone was being remote and all the rest of it. Every week there would be a Zoom meeting of like everyone that was working on Storybots at the time, so the whole Answer Time crew, but also the Super Silly Stories crew at the same time. And because we were off in our little bubble making our weird stuff, like whenever we would go on these meetings and then suddenly our little crew, like our little team of like 8 or 9 people, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, 80 people have joined the chat, and it's like, oh my goodness, and they would show like the stuff they've been working on, and my goodness, like the art, the backgrounds work, the characters, like everything was just, we always came away from those like feeling incredibly inspired, but also like incredibly like, oh wow, they're really making some, okay, right, we need to up our game, guys. This is like and also like do you remember the show and tells? Do you guys remember? Yeah. So the other thing they did, which was a brilliant move on Evan and Greg's part, was that every week someone would be picked to do show and tell, and they would have to just like show and tell in class, show something or talk about something. And I think because I was the one weird guy from Britain on the crew, I got picked to go like first out of everyone, having like just started this job, and with everyone else being American in another country and stuff. And I was so nervous. And the day I was due to do it, my apartment, my little basement thing that I was in, flooded. So it was underwater. And I had to like emergency get a train down to my then girlfriend, now wife's place, and do this kind of awkward show and tell of being like this British guy being like, well, I was going to show you stuff, but it's all kind of aquatic now, and hi, you know. And it was this weird like introduction to the rest of the team. I just suddenly remembered that. I'd forgotten about that. But
I remember I would go to the Jib Jab studios when they were Jib Jab, because it was down the street from my house after they hired me. And I remember visiting on a day that they were doing the show and tells in the office. And I think Jeff Gill was doing the show and tell that day. And I had no idea they were doing this, and that every single artist, so whatever any artist was interested in, it had nothing to do with their job at all. Just whatever was lighting them up creatively, like that's what they would share. Like, I'm really into like shells right now, or whatever it was. And they would deep dive on it, and just the level, like, to keep your team inspired by letting people share their special interests. Like, can we talk about it in a neurodivergent community? Could you imagine if your job let you, one of you once a week, deep dive and hyper share, to just, here, I'm going to just tell you everything about my special interest right now, so that you could all be inspired and then go off and create more amazing stuff. Like, that's the great example, perfect example of the creative
as well. Like, they were always really interesting. Like, I think because the people are they were always like Sunisa, who is not on the call but was our line producer and steered the ship. It turns out like she has a hobby of going to abandoned malls across the country, and I don't know if she breaks in, but like going inside them and taking like amazing photographs of these abandoned huge like malls and stuff. And it's just like, I would never have found that out about you without this thing. It's just, it made the team sort of really come together and just find out, wow, we've got some weird hobbies.
Oh my God. And also another thing is with the Answer Time production, which was also another pandemic team of efforts of that start as well. Like, I think I've mentioned this in the previous live stream event I hosted last year. And then there was like some episodes that they made for Answer Time that never actually were finished, or were never actually made it to the show. And lots of concepts, lots of episode ideas were just dropped because of like the strict limitations on the show. And while I have no knowledge of what either of these episodes could have been about, or what they could have done, I know a few people might have more knowledge than me, but I just really like, I'm just wondering like how like this whole I can't get it out right. I like the episode concepts and how they never actually came to Netflix. I mean, I get like, they have a certain limitation over the episode, like, count and like the time restrictions in each episode.
It goes back to what we experienced with our show. It goes back to all of a sudden they needed to save money, and they just, instead of finishing the episodes that were in the can that were ready to be recorded, they were just like, you know what, we're going to cut it here, save some money, and you're not going to finish the last couple of episodes. So they were just, it was all about saving money at that point for them. They were in a panic to save money. But every streaming service was at that time. So it was just one of those experiences. It wasn't intentional, and Storybots wasn't singled out because it was happening across the entire platform. And we're lucky we only lost a couple of episodes as opposed to like an entire season or something like that. Again, so many other people lost entire shows. So I love how Evan and Greg, because of course they're perpetually optimistic, are like, well, at least we have 2 written. If they ever need us to have more, we've got a great place to start.
Yeah, if they ever do want to greenlight another season for the show, they already have everything laid out, so it wouldn't take long in like the post-production stages. for the show. And I do remember there was one, I think I might know what at least one of the maybe the episodes that never made it to screen. I think it was like publicly shared on like someone's portfolio. It was, I think it was like a storyboard. It was like all the 5 storybots. It was sort of like I don't know what it was like going to be about, but I saw like the setting was like some sort of like parody of like Wizard of Oz sort of. There was like the characters were in like Wizard of Oz outfit. Like Beep was Dorothy, Boop was I think the lion, or actually Bo might have been the lion. I have to look back at that. And then the other characters, I think Bang was like the Tin Man. Bing I think was the Scarecrow, and Boop was like I think the dog.
That was the original draft for Wicked. What happened was originally Wicked was going to be with all the storybots, and then that just kind of created differences. It split ways. I've got no idea. I wasn't involved with Answer Time. You guys answer this.
I think there was like yeah, I do remember seeing, like, again, I don't know exactly what that episode would have been about, or what it would have had, or which character would have starred in it. But all I saw was like just a background of like, Wizard of Oz background with the 5 characters dressed up as Wizard of Oz characters, and that's all I saw. Like that again, and it was labeled under Answer Time, so it was probably like for one of the episodes. As for what episode that is exactly, I have no idea. And unless Evan and Greg can confirm that with me, in like a separate meeting, it's pretty much all entirely up for speculation at this point. What exactly the episode is about.
One thing I would say, Frank, is that, and I think Evan and Greg have said this, that for every episode that got made, there were so many scenes and things that didn't end up in the final cut of that episode, and things that got, explored and what have you. So it may have been from one of the lost episodes, or it may have just been a thing that was going to be in one of the existing episodes that didn't end up getting used. I couldn't say, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Nate also said at one point that they once wrote up like I don't know if this is true, but they wrote up 5 Lone Drifter segments in the show, and they only like showed like 2. They still have like the other 3 in like in the storyboard phase, but they never actually made it to screen. But at one point they did like make like all those, but then like a few of them were chucked in the trash, and probably they're probably still there somewhere in their archives, but. It is interesting just to see like there were actually more to the show, because when I first saw all this like deleted stuff, because like there was like entire scenes that were animated but never actually fully shown.
Oh, completely. Yeah, but if you go to any show or any movie or whatever, you're always going to have deleted scenes. It's part of the editing process. It's part of making the show better. If something's not working, and it might be right at the last stage that you realize it's not working as well as it should, then it's better to lose it and make the show stronger than
yeah.
And that's one reason why you have to keep your ego in check. Because you write something you're very proud of, or create something. Yeah.
Super Silly Stories just had a 1-to-1 ratio. We lost nothing from that show. Everything was perfect.
Perfect execution. Perfect. Nothing going wrong. No setbacks. No nothing.
Smooth sailing. Always smooth sailing.
Well, maybe the pandemic had a factor into it, but that's not. But yeah, it's just interesting, like seeing like, I mean, I know it's common for shows to like have like all deleted stuff into it as well. I know a lot.
I just have to give you a heads up, Frank. I have to split in about 5 minutes. Just a heads up.
Okay, so all right, and if that's the case, I think we're going to end it off here for now. Because I do actually have some news for you. I want to give to you personally at the end of this. So I think we're going to shut it off for now, and I have some other news to give you out guys as well, but I just want to give like this news to Erin first. So let me just end the stream right now. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the live stream. Everyone watching,
thank you guys
again.
Thank you, Frank.
A big thank you to all of you who decided to tune up for today. I really do appreciate just all of you being here. Like again, it's just a big honor to see you guys, like see such talented people as like yourselves take the time.
Thank you, Frank. And it's just, man, it's just so much fun to be with this group again and see all you.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for watching us ramble on, and thank you, Frank, for
and hopefully it won't be the last.
Yeah. Oh, and also just quickly shout out to like everyone on our little Storybots Super Silly Stories crew that I haven't mentioned so far. I'm sorry, I should have. Vic, who was unbelievable, like saved our Bacon with animating, Robbie, Z. I'm going to be forgetting people, but thank you everyone so much.
Of course, yeah. And I'll like stay up for like 1 or 2 minutes because I do have like some important news I want to give to everyone, including some new Storybots news I want to give from the brothers and some Netflix officials I've been talking with. So I'll make sure that everyone gets to all of you in quickish time. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you whenever we do another Q&A, probably sometime soon. All right. Later, guys.
Thanks. See ya.